Hi, listeners. Welcome to Off the Cuff with Namrita. If you don't know, this is the first show that I am going to be doing every Sunday, 9 a.m. And if you are up and about, thank you for tuning in. You've heard me on Dil Ki Awaaz on Saturdays. So keep following that too. And I'm so thankful, for your support and love that you've given me. Continue to do so because that means a lot to me, and media is my passion, so this is something new I'm going to try. And what better guest to have for my first show. June is Pride Month, and we as South Asian Indians, come out and support the LGBTQ community. We try to educate ourselves, learn as much as possible about how we can help, how we can change mindsets. And today I do have a Sikh American queer woman, a multi-time CEO with a track record of transforming startups with her, acumen, I'll say. But besides that, I can talk to her about fintech and biotech. My main focus will be on her personal life. She is every Indian parent's wet dream, I'll say. She's that you know she's that Sharma ji ki ladki who we all are scared of being compared to because she's an overachiever, to say the least. So Rayman Kaur Mathoda, welcome to my show, and thank you for being here.
I'm so very delighted to be here and grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much,
much.
Namrita.
Thank you so much. So, Raymond, just tell me, for me, what struck me about you was you're such an overachiever, the perfect child a parent can have, you know, but you were still so apprehensive of coming out to your family. So, I'd love to know more about that.
Sure. That's a really interesting question. Why was there an apprehension? You're right. I came from and come from an extremely loving, progressive, I would say, in terms of treatment of women, equality of women, allowing their 9-year-old daughter to be a swimmer wearing skimpy swimsuits in the 1980s in Delhi.
Mm.
A very, very highly educated family with 40 or 45 doctors. And overall, just an incredibly supportive environment to grow up in.
Mm.
With that being said, I would say that I grew up in a family with very strong values, and it was and a very strong set of values around family, and a very strong tradition of successful, kush arranged marriages. Kai generations may arrange marriages, including with my parents, who had a very successful arranged marriage and put in a lot of love and energy into us. But it was very clear the way I was brought up that the dreams of the family were all related to what stature and amazing family I would get married into.
Oh, okay.
And so, the Jat Sikh community, which I belong to, the Sikh community, which I belong to, it was very clear that the expectation was that just like everybody else before me, I would uphold the Jat Sikh flag, particularly because we have been historically for the last few decades kind of what I would call a persecuted minority. In 1980s में 84 Sikh riots के बाद ये तो और भी feeling थी कि बहुत there's a lot of challenge in the community.
Yes.
And so there's a need for us to stick and be stronger in line with our ethos in which the community was originated in the 1400s and 1500s, where the Sikhs were sort of like standing up for what's right, again, fighting the Mughals for the benefit of the community and the Hindu community. So within that setting of love and a lot of support, there was not a lot of flexibility for veering way off track. And I knew there had been some references here and there, especially growing up, to sort of the gay word. And it was clear that this was a taboo area. Any
absolutely.
kind of too much dating and going around and exploration was not sort of the expectation. So I knew that when I fell in love with my now, then girlfriend, now wife, and mother of my 2 sets of twins, 25 saal pehle jab pyar hua, I knew that it was a taboo kind of a love. There was no role model. I didn't know a single lesbian person of repute who's Desi or Indian. I didn't know a single gay person. I'd only heard little whispers here and there, right? So it was very, very clear that this was not the way to be. And because of that, that reluctance came in, because by the time you're 20, 21, 22, 23 in our Desi community, there is a lot, when you're an eligible young woman or an eligible young man, there is a lot of marriage pressure, yaar. It's
Yes.
all the conversation is about kiske saath hogi, kiska ladka hai, kaun hai, who's doing well, who's not doing well, who's ethical, all of that. So the chatter was all about that dream, which was now hugely in conflict with what my heart was telling me. And so but it was extremely important to me that my family be proud of me and that I make them proud and that I have them around me for the rest of my life. And so intuitively, I knew that there was going to be a big problem because this was a very, very different way of being. And I knew that I would not be one of Punjab's top families or top CEOs or chief minister of Punjab as a lesbian. It was clear, yaar. Kisi ne bola nahi tha, but it was clear, So there came the reluctance.
But that's the sad part. Why not? Why was that in your mind that you won't be able, whatever it is? Like about
because this is what the importance of representation, right? I mean, log bolte hai representation, you think, yeah, it's just a word, it's just a loves, but it's not. Representation is knowing somebody else is out there and has climbed that mountain and that it's okay. So the truth is, I mean, aap bataiye, we have role models in our community, right? It's very rare that somebody goes out and builds a life that is in a taboo area. Also, sexuality, you have to remember, any talk of sex, body, sex, even dating.
Dating was
dating going up in the 80s. This is the era when I grew up, right? I'm the class of 92.
Much earlier than you, but that is so true.
And I will tell you one more thing, Namrita. When a lot of desis, especially of older generations, hear about lesbian, gay, unke dimag mein pedophilia, bestiality or LGBT, sab ek hi category mein phase hue hain.
They don't know.
So that is crazy, right? I mean, those are criminal, unethical, crazy acts that are being lumped together with something that exists completely naturally in nature. And so I think we all get messed up by that kind of thinking, and it creates kind of a bad energy around it. So
very
that is
bad.
what causes the challenge.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, obviously it's a taboo to talk about, sex, and leave alone sexual orientation and gender identity. Wo to bahut dur aata hai. But, I think there's also a fear in a parent when, your own child comes out to you, because, what will happen to her now or him now? And also our, society has that huge epidemic of log kya kahenge, that weighs heavily on our mind. So and you told me that you came out to your parents through an email. You
I really messed
sent an email.
Worst possible way. Things not to do from Ray. Don't come out to your parents on email. यार मेरा कोई gay friend ही नहीं था. So coming out का concept ही नहीं था.
How did that go, and how was the reaction? I know.
I would say that I highly recommend anybody who's LGBTQ. Of course, I was separated by my parents by 10,000 miles. They were far, far away. And I felt an urgency to tell them the truth because there was a lot of pressure coming on me for marriage and arranged marriage, and my brother moving in with really then me and my girlfriend living together and things like that. So things catalyzed this, I think in retrospect, horrific, impractical plan where I was not able to sit with my parents and educate them on the process and come out in a gentler way. But what happened to me was I didn't know any gay people. I did not even know to build a gay community. I thought I've just fallen in love with my soulmate. And it reverberated in my life as the truth because I had fallen in love with women before in the media. Bolly, you talked about bolly.
Bolly,
I've been secretly in love with many a Bollywood heroine.
Oh.
So I knew this was truly my truth, but I actually fell in love with and I'm married to, the first woman that I fell in love with. So that also, I think, also complicated matters. When you discover your sexuality and talk to your parents and all of that in the absence of somebody that you've already found, it's a much easier process. But for me, it happened after graduating from college, after I was already a grown-up adult, after there was a lot of this arranged marriage pressure. And because of my own upbringing, without much LGBT exposure, I did not have a community that could support me, that could encourage me, that could educate me on other people's experience. After all, look, the number one way we learn is by learning from other people. So I had nobody else to learn from. So I kind of stumbled, I did it in my own kind of like Sardar, completely truthful, completely direct way, which is not the way you want to come out. Now, do I really think it would have changed the outcome if I'd done it in a very different way? I truly don't know. Probably not. But as I have grown older, I have realized that framing and speaking and tone and context and set and setting are actually very important. And so, as I grow older and wiser, I try to support others in being wiser about their journey and their communication styles. But
Absolutely.
we kind of just blurted it out and it was like an explosion had gone off. Of course, right?
No, Raymond, we don't have the language for it because you said no support, you felt alone, and now at least people are aware about it in India and the urban spaces, at least I can say. But I think we still are a long way to give, provide safe spaces for.
That's a very good
For
point. But Namrata, I would tell you, I'm not even talking about having a gay community at one layer.
huh.
We had a lot of, I had a lot of friends, we had a lot of friends, straight friends, desi friends. And one thing I will say is us desis make amazing friends. गलती हमारी ये थी, मेरी गलती इनफैक्ट नाइविटी में ये थी कि मुझे था कि मैं माँ बाप को पहले बताऊंगी, ये बात ठीक नहीं है. I would say that's a naive and idealistic way. If I had even told my own friends, who I quickly told in the weeks and days right after coming out, when things went completely gadbad, I called up all my friends and told them, and every single one of them said, of course, I already know. I can see with my eyes. I have been with you on the journey. I can see who you are. I can see that you are together. And of course, we are totally with you. So even that straight community was actually, I would say, there. And I think we got to give credit to our desi friends and community. So it's really more about coming out and talking about these things and normalizing them. I was scared to come out to my own friends and they all already knew. That's the grand irony. And this is 25 saal pehle. This is 20 to 25 years ago.
That's a lot. Yeah, way back. But you are so right. You need to accept yourself first. And then I guess you were kind of not ready
in that process.
And it's understandable, how things work. And look at you, you're doing so well. You're such a, community leader. And but as of now, you provide in your work, you provide a safe space for companies who are tanking. That's what I've heard, going down. How can we as a community, especially as a South Asian community, provide a healthy platform for LGBTQ voices or community?
It's really interesting that you connected this conversation with the work I do in companies. What I would say is my special sauce in companies, of course, I have to do what needs to be done to turn it around. But the special sauce is, you're right, it's the same special sauce, it's the same thing that we need in our community, which is connecting with each other on our humanity first. We tend to amplify our differences. Aap lambe ho, chote ho, chaude ho, patle ho, kahan ke ho, Bengali ho, South Indian ho, North Indian ho. How does it matter? We are all humans first. I think if we just speak up, if we are not scared of, like in our community, we tend to be with like-minded folks. We don't tend to go to that person who's different. We don't tend to approach that person who looks or feels different. I think it's simply realizing that actually we are all the same. And people who look different, even perhaps in a way that is slightly scary to you, dress or speaking or whatever, usually it comes from insecurity and a need for human connection. And so if all levels of the community can connect with each other at the more human level, I think that would go a long way towards shifting attitudes on this and fundamentally accepting each other, right? Chahe aap LGBT ho, somebody else may be unsuccessful on career, somebody else may have an unsuccessful marriage, somebody else may have a mental health issue. I honestly think it all falls into the same category of being with each other on our differences and our areas of pain and challenge, and not just on the good times and the good things.
So true, so true. And I think, we need voices like Rayman Kaur Mathoda to come and talk about, their life story. But Rayman, you're on Bolly channel, so I will ask you a Bolly question here. And you're a big Bollywood buff. You said you fell in love with many heroines. To tell you the truth, I also fell in love with a lot, like Madhubala. Who could not fall in love with her?
So true, right?
So tell us about the representation of LGBTQ community in Bolly. Is it getting better, or you think it's still a long way to go for that?
I would say a little bit of both. First of all, I'll give kudos and credit to Bolly and the Bollywood industry and kind of desi filmmakers and actors in general, which is that when you actually research LGBTQ representations in desi media and Bollywood, there's a lot of it. And it's not just in the Hindi movies. What I'm realizing is there's a lot of it in South Indian movies and there's a lot of it in the Bengali movies.
Okay.
So I think the first thing I would like to say is there's way more representation of this in our culture. And I think the notion of calling this a Western attitude is completely ulta, because you only have to go to the Kama Sutra and to our temples and to the Sanskrit
Yes.
original talk where they talked about three genders, not two
Hmm.
genders. There's already a non-binary
Uh,
here in Sanskrit. So I
Yes.
think going back to our culture and really looking at our filmmakers after the over the last 30, 40 years, the first thing I would say is
Hmm.
there's way more work that has been done than one realizes. And I
Hmm.
think our society perhaps is way more ready as long as we can start having these conversations. My
Hmm.
gut tells me that people are way more ready than we may realize.
Hmm.
At the same time, when you look at a film like Fire,
Huh.
many in the LGBT community had a problem with that.
Hmm.
In the 1980s, because in that movie, lesbian love was shown as coming about in the context of unrequited or unhappy marriages.
Oh,
That
okay.
women fall in love when the men don't take care of them or when marriage doesn't work well. So that was the challenge of the movie. But if I was to go to a positive nuance, there was true love shown there. And I believe at the end of the movie,
Hmm.
one of the actresses starts to leave her husband to explore this other dimension of her
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
So I'll say there was a mixed bag back then. Aajkal, there has been some improvement.
Hmm.
In fact, there's even filmmakers like Shonali Bose who
Yes.
are doing things like placing lesbian couples in the background in a
Hmm.
non-gay love
That's
story to normalize
hmm.
us and to normalize that we are out there. We are, right, and we are living completely normal lives, raising bachas, having jobs,
Bilkul.
going to school and all of that.
Hmm.
More recently, I would say that I really love Ayushmann Khurrana. I mean, he's done both a film on the transgender thing with Chandigarh
Yes.
Kare Ashiki, and he also did Shubh Mangal Zada Savdhan.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
done a couple of great ones. Rajkumar Rao did, I think, Alibag, or is it Aligarh? I forget.
Aligarh was Manoj Bajpayee, I think.
Aligarh, but he's Rajkumar Rao is the journalist who
Yes.
comes to
Yes,
talk to Manoj
journalist. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Bajpayee. And
Yeah.
then he's in Badhai Do, which again,
Yes.
I'm not loving the fact that they're showing, I guess, the reality.
It
The
is.
truth is, people are getting, they're showing a straight marriage,
Yes.
which is happening to, a straight, two gay people having a marriage, a heterosexual marriage,
Hmm.
but still continuing the relationship. So I think that one kind of like comes to the middle point where
Yeah.
there's truly a gay man in love with other men, truly a lesbian in love with other women. At the
Yes.
end, their families accept them and they have a bacha,
Which is
but they're not allowed to get married to each other and actually live as a nuclear family, which is
yeah.
the true reality that I would love to see
Yeah.
represented in Indian media. But then I'll also throw in a last one,
Hmm.
Margarita with a Straw. You
Yes.
know, Shonali showed a
Yes.
bisexual, disabled woman,
Yes.
differently abled woman.
For that. Yeah.
And so I would say there's been a ton of progress made, and I'm really proud of the work that's been done by our filmmakers, directors, and actors. And yet I would push them to normalize it more, to
A lot.
show truly the way love unfolds
Yeah.
for LGBTQ people, which, by the way, is the same as Kayamat Se Kayamat Tak and all the other straight love
Bilkul.
stories.
Yeah. Love
So
is love.
normalize it and show the real thing.
बिल्कुल
That will be
यार
the day where it'll be amazing and a day to
बिल्कुल
be celebrated.
बिल्कुल 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 सही कहा and I'm also loving what is happening in mainstream cinema because after all cinema is about money making and if producers are getting these subjects and trying their hand at that kudos to them. I like I writing poetry. I think I write corny poetry. So here's two lines for you. For people who don't get you. और हिंदी उर्दू में मैं लिखती हूँ कि तू तू क्यों अपनी परछाई अक्सर मुझ में ढूंढती है तू क्यों अपनी परछाई अक्सर मुझ में ढूंढती है मेरा अस्तित्व तुझसे अलग है मेरा अस्तित्व तुझसे अलग है क्या इसी को ऐब समझती है
Wah, 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 wah.
समझ
Wah,
ओके
wah, 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 wah.
थैंक यू
Talia.
शुक्रिया yeah that's why you have to accept the differences here
And that is the beauty of life is our differences.
बिल्कुल
If we are the same, then what's the fun? The fun isn't getting to know you and you're different.
Bilkul, absolutely. So now we go on to. So my question was about your family. You have a beautiful family. You talked about. You married, the person you love, and you met her during a reunion. I think your college reunion.
Yes.
So tell me about. There's still most people who say, okay, your family is again quote not a normal family. So according to you, what is normal? And what challenges do you face as a queer woman, uh, also having a transgender child. So I'd like to know more about that.
I really appreciate that question.
Exactly.
I think the question of what is a normal family is an
Huh.
amazing one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. Pehle, what is a normal marriage? Avi and I have, this is our fourth marriage.
Okay.
Because we are LGBT,
Huh.
and because gay marriage only became truly legal across the country in 2015. But there was a period of 6 months before Prop 8 came in, where gay marriage was both legal and constitutional in California.
Hmm.
That is the period when we got married. But we have two domestic partnerships and two marriages,
Okay.
including one from 2004, जब Gavin Newsom ji ने हम लोग को बुला लिया था,
Huh.
because he had declared the anti-gay marriage law unconstitutional. So his action was not, did not have legal standing.
Hmm.
But first it's like people who want to have a committed relationship. By the way, I think it's normal to also not want a committed relationship. Today, couples of all varieties are showing us so many different ways to be happy.
Huh.
But for my life, I had wanted a committed relationship. So the
Hmm.
first journey to create a family
Hmm.
started with the journey to create a couple and a unit and create that commitment and that life for ourselves.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So that was the first part of the journey.
Hmm.
One of the reasons we really wanted to get married was because we knew that there was so much challenge and lack of acceptance for the LGBTQ community. We wanted to have a marriage into which we brought our children in so that they could point to the marriage and say, oh, these are my parents. They are married just like yours.
Oh.
Should that be really the case long term in society? I'll punt off that question for now. But that was a core part of our journey. And we wanted to have our own. Actually, it's really interesting. We looked at adopting bachas, but we wanted to have a desi bacha. We wanted to continue our culture as part of our journey. And we realized that if you're a gay person, you can't adopt a child from India. So we had to give up our dream of adoption. And then we went into the realm of having kiddos by ourselves, just like more and more couples, by the way, are now having kind of, scientifically, medically supported reproductive techniques. We went into that whole journey and we ended up having, we tried for two bachas. Like I jokingly sometimes say they were on sale, 2 for 1 special. So we got two sets of twins, as can often happen in assisted reproduction, right? Because they create multiple eggs in each reproductive cycle. And so there's a much higher probability of twins and multiples. And so we ended up with two sets of twins. I mean, look, our life story is the same. Where do we live? We choose to live in Los Angeles because we are worried about moving, especially with the one transgender child. I've thought about moving to Texas or Florida because a lot of the mortgage industry companies, I'm telling you, मेरी जिंदगी में हुआ है, right? मेरी पूरी industry California से Texas या Florida चली गई.
Oh, yeah.
But Texas or Florida में तो it is not as receptive of an environment. I don't want my kids to go to school and other kids to make them feel not okay or not normal. And one of the beauties of the world in which we are today is, I would say there's actually maybe a couple of dozen cities, maybe more, where you can have what is traditionally an untraditional family like us, right? Two Indian mamas, 4 hybrid Indian kids, I call them, because we ended up choosing a Gora donor. And again, we ended up choosing a Gora donor because we wanted an open donor. Where the bachas can find the identity of this person at 18 years old, so they don't have to go on a wild goose chase, hire detectives and all of that. पूरी जिंदगी में यही बन जाता है कि वो कौन था. It's like नहीं यार, ये ले लो तुम identity ले लो, पर desis don't want to be found out at 18. If they've given their sperm, they want to then vanish away, right? So it's quite funny. We ended up kind of having this. So we kind of thought very carefully about the family that we wanted to have. Then a lot of our work was around the community. So we've been super engaged in all elements of our community. क्योंकि जिंदगी में क्या है? याराना दोस्ती ही है ना? So whether it's the community of friends or whether it's the community of people at school or through some of the nonprofits, that tends to be our community. And we've always been very, very deeply involved in both, like Planned Parenthood, LGBT Center, various causes, kind of building out that community. And then honestly, the rest of life is how do we live? How do we maintain a healthy relationship? Kya date night karenge? How do we even see each other when there's 4 bachas to take care of? Baki, how do you take care of the bills? After all, living in California is not easy, especially with char bache. So, like we've made the choice to co-found a charter school as founding parents and keep them in the public school system. Because we wanted to have really grounded kids who grow up with economic diversity.
And not private.
Grow up in this very high-end, high-income, la-la land, everybody has schools kind of world. And then, it's really around that. How do I balance work and life? How do I balance? What kind of children are we raising? Are they happy? What is our ambition for them? Do we want to be tiger moms and send them to Kumon and do it the Indian way? Or do we want to do it the Sadhguru way, which is also the Indian way, but where you like kind of like giving water and your child is a plant and they grow into whoever they want to be without you telling them whether they're a peach tree or a plum tree or a fig tree. This is a yogic thing. So, like debating those things, trying to stay calm through all of this, not look at Trump too much. So I'm not distracted by that. I can focus on the nitty gritty of making and saving money, investing it wisely, the day-to-day of life, right? So that, to me, that is what's normal, right? Is the human journey. I'll come back to that point.
Understand. Yes. What sounding, you are such a wonderful parent. I can see that. I can hear that passion in your voice. And what is it? We marry a guy and then say they don't understand us at all. Anyway, it's like your whole life goes in that. I had an arranged marriage. That's going on. But
that's pretty funny. By the way, there's a joke. It's so funny. I've been a CEO, right? I've run 5 different companies.
Yeah.
And intense jobs, CEO jobs, and I'm working 50, 60 hours a week and like turning something around, doing something that's hard to do. And people sometimes will come to me and say, how do you do it? Because for 4 of these companies, I used to run them 2 at a time, two at a time. And I jokingly say, I'm married to a woman.
Okay.
It truly is a superpower, right? Because she's incredible at everything. And very well rounded and takes incredible kids and is emotionally intelligent, even more than I am, and is a phenomenal chef and cook and is an architect. And is home and is willing to be that balance to me. Otherwise, I couldn't do it because I don't want to be running around making paisa. I want to be with the bachas, I work to live. I don't live to work, right? I live and I always jokingly say I work for my family.
I know.
I don't think I work for this company or that company. I say I work for my family. So I think that's normal.
I wish each and every family, has the values that you talked about. Truly, really, I feel that. Rayman, the time is running out. This was a short conversation, but it was so lovely talking to you. Thank you for coming on Off the Cuff with Namrita. And take care, stay blessed, and hopefully I'll meet you sometime. And
right back at you. Super looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Best of luck with Off the Cuff.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Rayman.
Take care, my dear. Bye-bye.
मालूम नहीं क्या सच है, मालूम नहीं क्या सच है, मगर जिंदगी को देने के लिए अभी बहुत कुछ है. Namaste. This is Navleen Jaggi, born and brought up in India and living in the Bay Area from past 20 years. I'm a software engineer by profession. I left my job to follow my passion and my dream. I had a dream to bring India here in the Bay Area. भारत की मिट्टी की खुशबू और जायकों को नए अंदाज में पेश करने के लिए मैंने अपना रेस्टोरेंट खोला यहाँ पे called Shosha. Shosha means to show off. I want to show off the creativity and vastness of flavors that India has to offer. We are located in the heart of Silicon Valley, downtown Sunnyvale. We specialize in corporate events, catering, be it weddings, birthday parties, anniversaries, indoors as well as outdoors. I'm inviting you all with your families, friends and colleagues to check us out at downtown Sunnyvale, 141 South Murphy Avenue. For reservations, please call 510-378-3775. I'm honored and blessed to be a grand sponsor of Off the Cuff by Namrita. We'll see you again soon here at Shosha. Namaskar.